And a good Wednesday morning, Quad Cities. It is Wednesday, February 26, 2025, and welcome into a brand new episode of Ask Andrew Live. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to be taking your weather-related questions, and I'll be answering them along with weather anchor Peter Warner, who's going to be joining us in just a few minutes. He's going to be talking about the changing amount of energy from the sun that we're going to be seeing that really ramps up in the next several weeks. Plus, if you're a fan of getting those later sunsets, some good news for you in that arena too. We'll start tracking that data coming up in just a moment. If you're not familiar or if this is your first time, welcome. We're happy to have you along for the ride here. How does this work? Well, we're going to talk about a little weather. We'll go over today's Ask Andrew question. Peter, of course, going to join us momentarily as well with some other insightful weather information you should know about this week. And then we're going to go down the list of your questions and we'll answer them live here until about 9:30. How do you get your question to me? Well, there's a couple of different ways. The first way, the easiest way, is to send a text message to 309-304-0888. That's going to go right to the fine folks at our digital desk, and then they will send that question to us here in the studio. So if you have your phone, which most of you do, right in front of you, go ahead and text your question to that number there, and we'll get to them in the order they come. So first come, first received, first served. Other way, too, we are also on Facebook Live at this time as well, so you can put your question in the comments section as well. Lots and lots to talk about today, including a brand new study. Just got my hands on this a little while ago regarding the lack of EF5 tornadoes across the United States and why we don't think it's really a drought of those stronger tornadoes, but there's something that's changed with the way that we measure those tornadoes that is likely causing this sudden lack of those stronger tornadoes, if you will. So you want to stick around for that. The numbers are quite fascinating as I was digging into those earlier today. Also, weather-wise, we're going to start tracking that right away for you here in case you missed the forecast this morning, because the big news this week has been the giant thaw that we have been experiencing. We had our first round of 60s for the season and for the year on Monday, and we're likely going to see another round of 60s before we get to the upcoming weekend that lies ahead of us. This morning, we actually had some showers moving through the region to talk about, and most of us picking up a few 100ths of an inch of rain, generally speaking less than a 1/10 of an inch. That area of low pressure is now in the process of moving out, and you can see that rain now pushing into parts of Michigan and also into far northern Minnesota and Wisconsin. Now, one thing we're going to have to watch for this afternoon is we're going to get some wraparound clouds and also some wraparound moisture, and you can see that right here. That's going to be swirling kind of back in our direction, and one or two of these little areas of showers or sprinkles may briefly visit our hometowns as we get into later this afternoon. So that's something we're going to watch. Kind of looks like a smiley face, doesn't it? But yeah, we are expecting a lot of clouds to stick around today. The bulk of the rain is done outside of a stray shower to the north of us. We're still going to get warm today. Despite all this cloud cover, I do expect our afternoon high temperatures to still get into the low 50s this afternoon. Tonight is going to be a little bit colder as that storm system begins to pull away. There you see 35 as we wake up tomorrow morning. Tomorrow still looks warm, despite some clouds and stronger winds out of the northwest. I think we're still going to land ourselves right into those low 50s. Another thing I mentioned this morning too is we're just about done with meteorological winter. We have 2 more days yet to go. This Friday will be the end of that season, and this is what it has looked like. This is no surprise. It's the accumulated winter season severity index. This chart tells us how easy or how difficult our winter has been. And really, you shouldn't be shocked. Here we are. It's mild, so it's the easiest category of them all. You notice, though, thanks to the cold and snow we had last week, we actually were just about ready to flip down a category into the moderate category. But overall, it's been a very easy winter. Does that mean we're done with snow and cold? No. We still have at least a couple more months that we could have some snow come out of the sky and land on the ground, and we could also get a little cold too. I do believe, though, that the worst of the chill and the wind chills are behind us, the way things look right now. Certainly, there's nothing in the near term that would warrant me thinking elsewhere, because look at this. You look at the temperatures. You've got 60s, you've got 50s, you've got 40s. Overnight lows at their coldest in the next week or two will be down to about 20. And that is not terrible at all. That's quite manageable. Get outside on Friday, by the way. I know it's going to be really windy, but that is a warm wind, so it will be comfortable. Get out and enjoy those 60s. That is going to be a gorgeous day. Unfortunately, we couldn't carry it over for the weekend. weekend. It's going to get a little cooler there with readings in the 40s. We still get some sunshine. This day right here, Sunday, will be your weekend's best. You got lighter winds, and then we're going to pop those temperatures right back into the 50s as we get to next week. So we're going to get to Peter Warner in just a moment, but let's go over the question we had this morning. This was an interesting study, and I want to take you along the journey here with me to show you what we found out. So our question was from Adam in Bettendorf, asking, why have there been no EF5 tornadoes since 2013? He's right. We have not logged or observed a single EF5 tornado since May of 2013, and that was in Moore, Oklahoma. A deadly tornado with, I believe, 24 people that were killed in this, and we haven't seen anything like that since then. So take a look at the data, and here's the number of EF5 tornadoes going all the way back to the 1950s. And yes, we do have periods where we can go a couple of years or a few years without seeing these really strong monster tornadoes. But the thing that sticks out is look at how long of a period we're in right now. That is very unusual. In fact, I was looking at the statistical data, and in any given year, based on our past history, there is a nearly 40% probability that somewhere in the United States each year is going to see an EF5 tornado. Again, the strongest tornado you can get. Notice that has not happened since 2013. And to have a probability that high means something is going on. Are we seeing a break from the stronger tornadoes? Are we seeing fewer stronger tornadoes? Or is something else going on when it comes to the data and how we are ranking these tornadoes? So let me show you and re-explain how these tornadoes are ranked. We used to use a scale called the Fujita scale, known as the F scale, from 0 to 5. That was based purely on estimated wind speeds only. It really did not account for damage and the types of damage to different structures that was caused. As of 2007, we changed to the enhanced Fujita scale. That does now account for the amount of damage and what type of damage to different types of structures occur. So you can see, if you go by wind scale alone, just the wind speeds, there's a big difference. It's almost like the threshold was kind of lowered for the enhanced Fujita scale. So you're looking at that and saying, well, wouldn't there be more EF5 tornadoes? And there isn't, because the damage assessment that now goes on with this enhanced Fujita scale is a lot more strict, and it's a lot more picky. It's much, much harder for a tornado to achieve that F5, that EF5 status, because of our new criteria that we're using. And that's what's kind of made this drought kind of a bit of a headliner, because you go back and you say, well, what if we didn't change the scale and we kept it the same and we kept estimating these higher wind speeds? Would we technically not be in an F5 or EF5 tornado drought? And the answer is yes. If we were to account for the system as it was previously, between 2013 and now, we would add a dozen, roughly, EF5 tornadoes to the list of tornadoes that have already occurred in the past. So when it comes to, the data and the continuancy of the data, it's definitely a problem. That is for sure. If you look at the key points of this study that we found, here's a good example. So the EF drought is not likely due to weaker tornadoes, but it's the stricter application of the EF scale since 2007. For example, the F scale, if you have a well-built home that was swept away completely, nothing left but the foundation, obviously that's an F5 tornado, no question about it. However, with this new EF scale, the same level of destruction is now often classified as an EF4 because the wind speed threshold has changed, and so has the way that we've measured those winds. There's a lot of debate on this in the weather community, especially among the chasers, the storm chasers. There's a lot of folks that believe, we've had a lot more EF5s based on damage that they've seen and wind speeds that have been estimated by Doppler radar, whether it's stationary or the Doppler on wheels. Some of those pieces of technology have certainly measured some very, very strong winds that, if you base it on winds alone, would absolutely be an EF5 tornado. So here's your key points. And again, fascinating study. I want you to read more about this later today at WQAD.com when I get it up there. You've got the scale discrepancy. You've got this F scale and the EF scale, which represent the different kinds of wind speeds and damage. There's some that say we need to adjust the lower bound speed from 201 miles per hour to 190 miles per hour to better align with the historical data. And then also don't forget that EF5 rating that was assigned based on damage to single-family homes without specifying construction standards. Each home is built differently depending on the decade in which it was built. We remember that our building codes and our building structure and building technology is constantly changing, and that is what the EF scale was attempting to keep up with, but it looks like some further investigation may be needed. In fact, I did read not that long ago that there is more work being done on the EF scale. It's not perfect. It's certainly better than what we had before, but it does appear that more work is definitely done. So that was a fabulous question. Thank you, Adam, for sending that in. And of course, I'll have more about that on WQ80.com. Let's get on a happier note, because nobody likes to talk about, life-threatening and killer tornadoes. What about the sun's energy? And we're going to start seeing more daylight in the weeks ahead. I want to send it over to our weather anchor, Peter Warner, to explain some changes you're going to notice coming up.
Yeah, you might have already seen, Andrew, that those sunsets, especially on those sunrises, starting to get a little bit earlier. That Bridgepoint camera starting to get a little bit lighter here earlier in the day. That's because we're getting that point of the year where those sunrises are starting to happen before 7 a.m. Today we saw a sunrise at 6:41 a.m. We're getting to just about the lowest it'll get here in March, early March, but take into account we do have daylight savings time coming, so that number is going to swing back up. But good news is it's going to get back down later down the road. But we are nearing kind of for at least the daylight standard time. Pardon me. For standard time, we are starting to see a little bit more of that sunlight in the morning. What are those sunrise looking like over the next few days? Well, today we'll have a sunset around 5:50 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow right around 6:41. Take a look at this trend here. It's going to be around 6:30 a.m. on March 5th. That's not too bad at all. Sunsets, though, a lot earlier. Well, before that 6 o'clock time frame, we're seeing those sunsets. But then, let's add in daylight saving time. 7:18 a.m. by March 12th. This is the first week following it. But look at those sunsets. If you're an afternoon, late evening person, you're going to start to really love these. 7:06 p.m. by the time we reach March 12th. By the time we reach April 2nd, that sun is going to start to set at 7:30 p.m. Now, those sunrises will eventually catch up, but we're not going to be seeing sunrises before 6 a.m. until probably March 22nd, 23rd is when we're going to finally start to see those sunrises jump back below that 7 a.m. mark. But with these increasing amount of sunlight, we're also going to be seeing that sun angle increase more and more each day as well. Currently, we are right in between this February-March time frame right now, and as that sun angle rises, we're going to get only longer days, but we're going to get more energy and warmer temperatures because that allows the sun to heat the earth more as we continue here towards June. Then it's going to start to come back down. But as that sun energy increases, that also, again, is going to be bringing more heat. Here's kind of just what that looks like. Here in January, you can see it's kind of at that lower angle, just around, say, 30-ish degrees. But as we continue towards February, you're going to see it's slowly going to start to get more and more energy. This is also not only when we see warmer temperatures, but we start to see severe season as well, as Andrew just talked about with those tornadoes. By the time we're in June, it's going to be right on top of us, bringing plenty of warmth, and we're going to also have those longer days. Andrew, let's get it back to you.
Great explanation there, Peter, about how that sun is becoming more and more powerful, and hence why we're going to see those average temperatures start climbing rapidly. In fact, we see the biggest jump in that average temperature next month and into April. Huge, huge gains on that. And a lot of people may not think about the angle of the sun and how it changes. The one thing I always notice this time of year is the sun, especially when you're getting into the later part of the day, it just feels like it's right in your face when you're driving. But that's going to go away in the next several weeks as that angle gets higher and higher. It's going to be more above you as opposed to right in front of you. Oh, yeah. Which we can't wait for.
I can't wait for that.
Oh, that's going to be so nice.
I'm excited for those early sunrises too. It's on GMQC, it looks so nice on the Bridgepoint camera.
Yes, because we don't have much to look at during GMQC because it's so dark.
So dark.
Yeah, when we get closer to May, June, July, that's when we get those nice early sunrises and sunsets. And we're going to talk about this next week, or actually probably the week after when we get a little closer to daylight saving time. There's always that daylight saving time debate.
Yes.
Should we get rid of it? Should we stay on it? you know, lots of different feelings on that.
There is. It's kind of widespread. It's almost become political to a point.
It really has. And
So-
you come from a place where it
I don't
doesn't
even have
exist.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So that's like, I'm saying, I caught myself saying it a couple of times there. I said daylight savings time, because in my head, that's what I always heard growing up. But it's not daylight savings, it's daylight saving time.
Yes.
But yeah, I never in Arizona, our clocks just stay the same. We just switch time zones.
And do you prefer that? I'm just because you've been there, you've lived there. Do you prefer just leaving it alone, or do you like the switching of the time? And
I kind of like leaving it alone.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I don't have to change my clock. It doesn't really change, you know, when the sun sets or the sun rises. Your body, like, kind of syncs with it a little bit better.
Yeah.
So I will admit I like that. But the annoying thing is you have to switch time zones all the time, so you're always confused. Like, so when I'll call home, I'm like, wait, is it 2:30? Is it 1:30 when I'm calling my mom?
yeah,
Checking up? I don't know.
are they 2 hours ahead or 2 hours
ahead,
behind?
1 hour behind.
1 hour behind. Yeah,
That's the only
that's
confusing
true.
thing with it. But beyond that, it's great.
Makes you stop and think a little second before you make that
Yeah,
phone
I still
call.
have my car on my Arizona time, so I can keep track of it in my head.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, very good idea.
I know, right?
I love that.
Works kind of well.
Very cool. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that when we get a little bit closer. That's the second Sunday in May, so we have some time. And speaking of time, it's time to get to your questions and see what we've got on the docket today. Some good ones.
We got some good ones, and we'll start off with our good friend Marcus from Knoxville.
Yes, we know who that is.
We know who you are. Why does lightning not strike the same place twice?
Ooh, we've heard that phrase before, haven't we? Lightning
have.
never strikes the same place twice. Sometimes it does, especially if you're something called, is it the Willis Tower now in Chicago? It's not the Sears
Yes.
Tower anymore.
I think it's Willis.
I think it's the
I
Willis
still
Tower.
always call it Sears Tower.
Yeah, I do too. That's what I grew up with. You know, it's like the Mark of the Quad Cities, and
Yes.
everybody still calls it the Mark. The reason being, you got to think about how lightning is produced, where it comes from. Of course, if you have a tall object, especially if it's in an open area, you are more likely to see a second strike on that tall object, like a tree. But lightning is a real complicated piece of physics when you talk about its randomness and how to forecast it, how to predict it. It involves so many things. You need a certain amount of water droplets, you need a certain amount of ice crystals in a cloud. Yet a cloud needs to have a certain charge along with the charge difference at the ground. And that's what makes this so random. You know, it's hard to say, oh, this is going to get struck by lightning today, or that's going to get struck by lightning. Well, the only thing we know is that lightning prefers tall objects that are typically isolated on their own.
Yeah, it's much easier, and again, it's all really dependent on that charge that you see and how it builds up in the cloud. You usually see those negative charges in the lower levels of the cloud and that positive charge on the ground. And it kind of depends on that shift change of the system as well, because there's 4 phases that you need to develop that lightning, and you can't it's impossible to forecast that and predict where it's going to land.
Not to mention there's different kinds of lightning. There's positive lightning, there's negative lightning, there's intracloud, intercloud. There's also ball lightning. We had an Ask Andrew question about that a couple of years ago, what ball lightning was, and it's more rare, but it does exist. So it's like playing the lottery.
It is, and also it's really fun to study the coloring.
Yes, you're right.
That could be a good Ask Andrew explainer for
That
us.
would be a good one. He's giving me ideas.
Giving us ideas, but yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of variables that play a role. Even dry air will, for example, change the color of it, like we were talking about there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, lightning is fun,
It is.
but
It's
very
fascinating to
difficult
watch.
yes, very difficult to almost understand and forecast.
Yeah. Very random. Good question, Marcus.
Randy from Kelowna, but currently in Mesa, AZ.
Hey.
Heyo. We often get a polar vortex in the winter. Does slightly warmer air then replace that air up north from another part of the world?
That is exactly what happens. Is anytime we get a visit from that bitterly cold air like we did last week, someone else who is normally cold is warm. And in most cases, it's Alaska where that
Yes.
happens.
Yeah, typically seen in Alaska. That's kind of all it goes about how we talk about all the time. The pressure systems and the wind gradients, Mother Nature is constantly trying to balance. So if there's
Yes.
an imbalance somewhere, it's going to balance it out somewhere else, no matter what.
One of the things that you're going to hear, if you haven't already from your professors, because Peter's going to school, is that warmth from the tropics always tries to head north to the
Always
poles.
does.
And it's got to displace something to make up for that imbalance of temperature and pressure and energy.
It's all
And
about the
that's what happens.
telekinetic patterns and weather
Yes.
that we see throughout the world.
That's a big word.
I know.
For 9:19 in the morning. Telekinetic.
Yeah. I think that's the word, right?
It is the right. Yeah.
That's like
Teleconnected. We have teleconnections.
Teleconnections,
Yeah.
teleconnective.
And we're not talking about, calling somebody up on your cell phone.
No.
We're just, that's a word we use for how these little pieces of energy and
Yes.
temperatures interact with each other.
All one big teleconnection throughout the world.
And he's going to learn all about that.
Already
He's
started.
excited.
It's so fun. It's so fun.
Yep.
He called me Professor Peter at this point.
I know. Speaking of which, we have some exciting news that I'll share with you at the end of this.
The end,
Yeah.
yes.
I want to save the best for last.
We are. It's exciting.
Yes.
Kathy from Linden, Illinois asked, do you think the bitter cold is over for this season?
I honestly think the worst of the cold is behind us at this point.
Yes.
You get into March, like you were talking about, you showed how that sun angle was changing, how we get so much more energy. And look what's happening outside right now. What did we just melt off completely?
Snow.
The snow's gone. So our albedo, or our potential to store and absorb the sun's energy, has gone way up.
Oh, yes.
Now that snow is completely gone.
And that's huge. And also the freeze is going to slowly start to melt as well, just increasing our temperatures as we get into the days ahead.
Yeah, you're going to thaw the ground out. That helps as well. So now the fact that we've gotten rid of all of our snow, our chances of getting any of that Arctic air where you get below zero wind chills and sub-zero temperatures, that is rapidly decreasing at this point. The only thing that would change that, and it would have to be real quick in about the next 2 to 3 weeks, because at the end of March, it's almost impossible, but we would need a real heavy snow event in the next few weeks to get any kind of that cold air to come back here. It's not in the cards right now, but as you've seen on the 14-day that I showed you this morning, we're all over the place the next 2 weeks. It's
a roller
all
coaster
over
again.
Yeah. So anything's possible.
Anything's possible. Yeah. There's a chance maybe for some wintry mix with the system next week, but
yeah,
I don't think we're going to be seeing much accumulation probably.
Yeah, not for a while anyway.
No, at least that. Debbie from Knoxville asked, this past year has seemed to have more windy days. Is this going to change to be our norm with global changes?
Well, it is definitely something that we're noticing. I did an Ask Andrew on this, I think it was a year or two ago. Are we seeing more wind in the Quad Cities? And the answer was yes. It's not increasing a lot, but the average wind speed is going up compared to what we've seen in years past. I will show you the wind climatology chart, because this is a good explainer in terms of when you're going to see your strongest winds of the year. I haven't updated this yet because the last time I used it was in January. So ignore the orange bar. If you were to put an orange bar, it would be for March, because that's what we're heading into. But you notice how the wind keeps creeping up and up as we go to March and April. Why again are we seeing so much wind?
Temperatures.
Temperatures, yep.
Temperatures and pressure systems.
Consistent temperatures, yep. We don't get stable temperatures until we get to June, July, and August and September, hence why the wind is flat. You don't see there's a whole lot of wind there. So our windiest months are still ahead of us. April is always a windy month around here. But you are correct. Our average wind speed has gone up a little bit more over the years. Again, it's not a ton, but it is enough that it is impacting the data when I looked at the actual numbers. And that is because of the temperature inconsistency. Especially this time of year, our fastest warming season is winter in the Midwest.
It is.
And if we keep seeing all these temperature swings and more of them as we get warmer winters, you're going to expect to have more wind.
And also, I think another thing to take into account too is that we've seen more extremes on both sides of the spectrum.
Yes.
We've seen colder air for the north, more common, more records are being broken. For the south, I mean, Phoenix, I know this year has already broken like 5 records for
With
highs
heat.
in February. So heat.
Yeah.
So take into account, again, the winds, right? It's trying to balance out that much colder air and extremes that we're seeing more often north to the extremes to our south, and we're right there in the middle.
Yeah, perfectly said. I couldn't agree with him more.
All right, let's see. Nancy, I'm back here. I haven't left here. I'm still working here at QAD. I'm just helping out from our other studio for our sister station. I'm not leaving, and I haven't left, but I'm still here to help out with Ask Andrew and stuff. Just on air, I'm helping out with them instead. So I'll be back hopefully here pretty soon.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it.
we're
Got to
trying
find
our
the
best.
right people. We want to have the right people to be not on air for just here, but also our sister station in Des Moines. But you've been doing a fantastic job over there.
Thank you. I
I
appreciate it.
occasionally sneak over there and I watch, and I'm like, there he is, there he is.
I'll sneak through our side door, too. We kind of say hi back and forth all the
Yeah,
time.
it's nice having some company in the morning.
Yes. Lois asked, says, I guess, the wind never seems to stop blowing here in New Boston. And about this time of year, it's pretty much right.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, again, you're going to be entering the windiest period of the year heading into the next couple of months. It will calm down as we go into the summer months. I want to add too, by the way, none of this data includes thunderstorms.
Yes.
So, I know we get those real strong winds, they can go up to 80, 90 miles an hour with severe weather in the summer. None of this data reflects any of that, because that's kind of contamination. We want to talk about the average wind speed.
And just your day-to-day basis.
Yeah, we don't really care what happens in a time span of 5 or 10 minutes out of the whole day. We want the rest of the day without that contamination. So, yeah, just a big bunch of different pressure changes. We use that health graphic during the 11.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You're probably familiar with that. I can pull it up here if you want to see that pressure graph and how crazy it is
There's
here.
lots of ups and downs on the way.
Yeah.
Lots. Look at this.
Give it a second. It's going to go through the data. But yeah, we got a dip in here for Friday because we have a cold front coming in.
Yep.
And you're going to get warmer temperatures. But then the cool air comes back in for the weekend. Your pressure goes up. And then we warm up again next week. And guess where your pressure goes? It goes down again. So we just have all these ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs. And if you miss the 14-day, here's the 14-day because we have a minute. Up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. 60s this week, 50s next week, close to 60 Tuesday, and then 60s possible again in week 2 at the end of it.
Our director, Brandy, has a question.
Yes, go for it.
Just gave me in the ear.
Go.
Why does the low pressure make it more achy?
Very good question. So low pressure, remember, we kind of got to go back to biology.
Oh, yeah.
I was terrible at biology,
I didn't
by
like
the way.
biology, to be honest.
If my biology teacher is watching, I apologize. I was a very poor biology student. But I did pay attention to one part, and that is, 90+% of our body is made up of water.
Yeah.
So when you expand things with low pressure, what you're doing is you're allowing things to expand, like the tissues, your joints, all that fluid, it's expanding.
Yep.
And that's why you're having aches and pains, whereas high pressure is going to make it contract.
Exactly. And also temperatures, too, play a role in that as well.
That's right. Exactly.
Even temperature alone can cause, if you have big ups and downs, lots of contracting, lots of expanding, going back and forth. It's the same thing that we see on the roads, just on a much more minute scale within our bodies, if that makes sense.
Like with the potholes.
Yes, exactly.
All that, expanding, contracting, and then you just have a blowout. Now, you're not going to have a blowout with your knee, probably, or your elbows. Our brains aren't going to explode or anything like that. This pressure change we're talking about is not that drastic, but it's drastic enough that you feel it.
Yeah, you feel it. It's just, again, it's like molecular, cellular changes that, again, you aren't going to be seeing or actually exploding or anything.
No worries. No worries.
Nothing's happening, Randy.
But as always, if you have a question, a medical question, please consult your physician.
Yes, that's
we are not medical experts.
We are not doctors. From Barry in Davenport, when do y'all expect the spring severe season to hit? Do we expect tornadoes in the region this year?
We're definitely going to have tornadoes in the region this year. I talked a little bit about this earlier in the week. Personally, I think based on everything I've looked at that this is going to be a later start to the severe weather season for us this year. One of the what is the word I'm looking for? Not an almanac, but it's another word that you go back and you look at a year that was like this year. Analog.
Analog. That's
the word I'm looking for. An analog year.
There's been all sorts of comparisons too of analogs too.
You've seen one from 2011.
I've seen 2011, which I think is more maybe social meteorologists, as we like to say. So like 2011 was a crazy outbreak year, all sorts of tornadoes. I don't think we're going to be seeing that. But I have seen some other interesting ones like the 1950s. And it's kind of, again, you can't exactly forecast a season perfectly. You can just compare it based on previous seasons.
Yeah,
that's what analogs help us with.
That's exactly the best you can do right now. I was following, you may be familiar with Nick Stewart. He was a meteorologist in Cedar Rapids at CBS 2. He's big on severe weather. He's a storm chaser. He does all this data research and digging up. I was looking at something he was posting on his YouTube channel the other day. One of the analogs he had was 2018. I think there was 2009. I wrote this down. Do you think I can find it in my notes? Probably not.
Probably.
You know what? It's probably in this note. I got notes all over the place. Nope, it's not in that note. There it is.
It's the only way to stay organized.
2018, 2009, 2006, 1996, and 1989 were his analogs that he was looking at for severe weather. The only thing I noted when looking at those years, 2018, we had no severe weather until May. That was a very, very late start to the season. And then it continued to remain active June, August, and then it got active again all the way through December. That was a busy year. I didn't see anything to note in 2009. 2006, we had a tornado outbreak in April in the Quad Cities, and in 1996, we had the famous Galva tornado. which was a strong one. A lot of people remember that. So we'll see. A lot's going to depend on what's going to happen with La Nina, which has been a weird La Nina this year.
Wacky.
Yeah, it's defied every forecasting odd you can throw at it. And you have to also see what happens with the drought situation too. But if you go by the analogs, most of these appear to be those later start years where you don't see too much in March, but you get into April and May and things start to heat up.
It gets it popping.
Yeah. And this guy gets to experience it firsthand this year for the first time.
I know. I'm excited to go out in the Beast. I haven't
Yes.
been chasing in the Beast yet, and I'm just cannot wait.
It's a good time. Just ask Morgan.
Just ask Morgan. She's got such a good success rate. That I
Oh,
make her drive.
goodness. Yes. In fact, while we're on that topic, she's going to talk more about that during our upcoming severe weather special. She's going to link back up with Evan Bunkers, who was the driver that day, and he's a seasoned veteran storm chaser. So if you were curious about her experience and kind of what was going through her mind that day, and also how they decide where they're going to go and what they're going to do, stay tuned and watch that special coming up later next month.
It's going to be an exciting one. We got a whole lot to cover.
We have a lot.
And we talk a lot, because that's what we do.
Because that's what we do. Like we're doing right now. We're talking a lot. We filled 30 minutes of time.
I didn't even realize that. It feels like it's been like 15.
I know.
Maybe.
It flies so quickly.
It flies.
Any other questions we can
We
finish
had
up?
one from Carrie and Moline. This is a quick one. Is this the least snowy winter we've had in years?
It is in recent years.
In recent years.
Yeah. Total of things.
Record breaking.
No, not record breaking. Not right now, and it probably won't be either because we've gone. I think we're third place last I
third or
checked.
fourth, but I mean, still historic.
Top
dry.
5.
Yes, but not record breaking.
Yeah. Third place looks like what it's going to be because we do meteorological winter. So once we get to March 1st, we're not really measuring up snow anymore. You could probably, if you wanted to look at astronomical winter, we could get that data out and see what that would be too. But in terms of the meteorological winter from December to the end of February, this would be the third, I think.
I think it is the third. I remember we were looking at that.
It's impressive.
It's impressive.
It's really impressive. All right, we're all caught up.
That'll do it.
Should we give them the news?
Let's give them the news. You're the big man of the hour. It's here at the show.
So in a couple of weeks, we're going to be expanding Ask Andrew Live, and it's going to be a little different than what we're doing on Wednesdays. Yes. So what you're used to here will continue every Wednesday at 9, but we're going to add something new on Fridays starting at 7 and probably lasting till 7:30, maybe a little bit longer depending on what we got to talk about. But we're going to be doing kind of like an Ask Andrew Live podcast. And it won't be live like what we're doing here, but we're actually going to be talking about everything weather, whether it's here in the Quad Cities, whether it's going on nationally. We're going to have a lot more guests on.
Yes, interviews.
Interviews, yep.
And I think we could do a lot more like a general outlook at your weekend.
Yes.
We'll break that down. We'll have any fun weather stories, even maybe the craziest storm that we're seeing this weekend across the country. There's all sorts of fun things we're going to be able to branch off with this.
And of course, you're going to learn something too. You know, between all of us, we're going to give you those nuggets of information. And the other thing that's nice about it too is the fact that I have enough time to get everything scheduled and pre-recorded, and then we can launch it on Fridays, is that we can mix up our guests. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to ask James to wake up at 7 in the morning and say, hey, come on my podcast.
Yeah.
We can do it all ahead of time, and then we can get you that great content and also present it to you on a better schedule, because we know a lot of folks are watching right after GMQC. Yes. So it'll be a couple of weeks away, maybe a few weeks away. We'll let you know the official date. But if you're a big fan of GMQC, it will not stop at 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, you can, on our streaming app, hop
right there,
right on over to the Ask Andrew Live podcast, and we'll have a full half hour at least, maybe in some cases more content for you.
It's already get the learning started early for the kids on their last school day.
Exactly.
School day.
Yeah.
I can't talk right now. Last school day of the week. I'm so excited. Yeah, you're right, Brandy. I'm excited about it.
And of course, Peter's going to be a big part of this as well. You're going to have your own little mini segment.
I don't know if it'll be on the Friday or Wednesday yet.
Yeah.
But obviously, you guys know I'm in school. I'm going to be Professor Peter and teach you guys actually what I'm learning in school that week, break it down for you guys so you guys can learn what I learn as I go through the process.
And isn't that cool?
It's going to be kind of fun.
So like if you've always wanted to be a meteorologist, but you don't have a lot of money to go back to school, I can't go back to school, that's for sure, unless somebody's paying it for me. But if you've always wanted to know what they're learning about, you can go on Peter's journey with him. He's going to explain everything that they've been talking about in school and all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'll probably learn something new too.
It's true. You learn something new every single day, actually.
Yeah.
So that's the goal, always.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that. Again, we'll let you know when we got a date. It is going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks, in the next few weeks, and we're excited about that. More guests, more topics. It's going to be a lot of fun, and that'll be on Fridays, 7 to 7:30 on the WQAD 8+ app. You can download that for free on your TV to start streaming right away. If you haven't gotten the app yet, what are you waiting for, right?
Come on. We've been reminded you.
It's a nice exclusive little club we got going here.
It's the best club.
Mm-hmm. It is.
It's not only exclusive, but the best.
It is. I agree.
Disney 33, nothing on it.
I love it. Yes. So if you don't have the app yet, if you're watching us on Facebook, if you have a Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, or Fire Stick, or if you have that Apple TV attachment, go ahead and download it. We're working on more. Brands are coming. We're almost there. We want to get the testing done, and we want to get it right. We don't want to give you an app that's got a whole bunch of problems. We want to make sure it's going to work. So if you don't have any of those three and you're on a different platform, maybe you're like on an Android TV or a Samsung or one of the others, sit tight. We're coming. Our IT team is working on it, and we want to get it right.
We will.
And we will get
That's what we're
there.
going to do.
Exactly. All right. That's going to wrap us up for here for this week. We'll see you back here next week.
Next Wednesday.
For another exciting episode of Ask Andrew
Live tracking maybe next week.
Maybe, yeah. We might have a radar thing, something on our radar to talk about. Come back in and see. You have a great week.
Continue with us and watch free now on the 8+ app everywhere you stream.